I'm Xanderwood. I make indie games and tutorials on game development. I also play your indie games every week on my channel. Make sure you subscribe and click that bell icon so you never miss a video.
And a huge shout out to my new channel members and Patreon supporters: Jet Simon, Basic Terror, Enmark Games, Zan, Foozle CC, James Welch, Olivia Bernier, Tor Alexanderson, Matt, Fan, Mario Lewis, Seth Coble, and Retro Galaxy.
Hey guys, welcome back. The series continues. I've done something. I've changed the jump strength on the little square that controls the player movement to 400, because before we weren't able to jump over the ghouls. Every time we try and jump over them, we would land on top of them and get hurt. So now we can jump over them just fine, which I think is better, because in the original you can jump over them. So I think that makes a little bit more sense. Today though, we are going to be making the werewolf. So the wolf is going to have states. So you can see he's already got an idle state, and he has a jump and run state. So you can see he's waiting, and then he jumps towards the player, and then when he hits the ground, he runs in the direction of the player. So there's 3 states that we need to add on to the wolf. So let's first of all create the wolf. Now the wolf is going to be, it's going to be twice the width of the player. So the player is a 16 by 16 sprite. The wolf is going to be 16 high by 32 wide. So let's double click and add a sprite. Let's change it to 32 by 16. And let's change the origin point to the bottom. Now let's just draw something very quick, because again, I don't want to waste too much time on the pixel art. Change the animation here to idle, because we're going to need to do 3 animations. So the idle animation is when he's just going to be sat down. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw out a really quick wolf. I'm just going to have to go with it, because again, it's not a pixel art tutorial. I don't care if it looks like a bit of a squirrel, but you know, here we are. We're at that stage now. I'm going to give it a 2-frame idle animation. And all I'm going to do is just bob his head down and maybe flick his tail back a touch. There we go. I'm going to stick that on a loop on a 1 speed. Yeah, he's okay. That's fine. Let's duplicate that now. Let's make this one run. Duplicate it again, and let's make this one jump. Jump's going to be a 1 frame, because it's just going to be him in the air with this kind of paws outstretched. Kind of like this, and his legs will kind of be stretched back a little bit. I'm going to bring him up a little bit to there, and then we'll just color his legs in like that. And like that. Get rid of that, which was supposed to kind of be his back leg. Kind of showing from behind. Yeah, it's not the best, but it's what we've got, and it's what we're going to work with. So feel free to put some more time and effort into your one. I'm going to drag that up there, because I go idle, jump, and then his run animation. Let's just go back and put him in a running, kind of running posture. We'll delete those. Level off his back. And then back leg to here. And then that'll be okay. That'll be like his front paw just kind of bending up in front. And then duplicate. And then all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to drag that one out to the front. And move that one back, and then have his kind of other back leg kicking back over there. Yeah, I mean, admittedly, that is probably the worst running animation I've ever made for any creature. But like I said before, it's not a pixel art tutorial. It is a Remake Castlevania tutorial. If I change the speed of that to 5, hopefully the speed, you're not going to see too much. So I'm just going to flick the tail up at the end there, and I'm going to bob the head. There we go. We could put some in-between frames in, but I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to do that for now because, like I said, it serves a purpose for what we want. We've got the 3 animations exactly there that we need. Right. Let's go ahead and rename this one to Wolf. And let's go put him in the game. Let's put him in the game somewhere. So let's go ahead and stick him in. Let's stick him in over here. Now we're going to give him line of sight. So basically we're going to give him enough sight to be able to kind of see in this area. So as soon as you enter this area, he's going to kind of do his leap towards you and then run. And then I think he's probably going to do the same as these ghouls. I think he's going to hit the wall and just kind of fade into it. So click on the wolf. Let's give him a behavior. Let's give him platform. Behavior. Make sure his initial animation is set to idle. Let's go back to the enemies tabs, create a new group. Let's call this one wolf. And then we're going to need to create a state for the wolf. So let's go back, select the wolf image, the sprite, add an instance variable, and this one is going to be called state. There's going to be a string, and the initial state is idle. And we're going to use this variable to control what state he's in and then tell the system to play the animation and do certain things based on that state. So let's go ahead and program in what's going to happen if he's in idle state. So let's go ahead and find the wolf. And we're going to compare that instance variable. And we're going to say if that instance variable is equal to idle, then we're going to say wolf. And we're going to set the animation to idle. Now let's go ahead and copy and paste that out twice more. And we're going to say if state is equal to jump, set the animation to jump. And if the state is equal to run, set the animation to run. And those are our 3 states. Now we need to put in some conditions that allow us to change between these states in the game. So let's go back to the layout, and we're going to need to add another variable, another behavior, sorry, to the wolf. And this one is going to be line of sight. Now the line of sight, by default sets the cone of view to 360, which is basically means he can see in all directions around him. And that's fine for what we want, because he's going to basically see, he's going to be facing left the whole time from where he's placed. If you wanted him to only see if he's facing the right way, then you can change this cone of view to whatever you want. And bear in mind that facing towards the right 90 degrees, so in that direction, that's 0. So if you wanted it 180, you'd effectively be like everything in kind of this from here to here, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, have a play around with it, because you play around with it a little bit and you'll be able to kind of understand exactly where he's looking in terms of the cone of view. But for this tutorial, we're going to keep it 360, and the range at the moment is 10,000, which is 10,000 pixels, which means he's going to be able to see off the end of the screen here. So let's change that. Now we know that these squares are 16 each. So if I do 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That'll be 160 pixels. So if I change his cone of view, his range to 160, he's only going to be able to see us 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. When we kind of get past that third candle there, which is fine. That's kind of what we want. We're going to jump down here. We're going to walk along. As soon as we go past that candle, he's going to do a little jump and then run at us. So yeah, that's everything I need. Right, perfect. So let's go back to the enemies events. Now, add an event to Wolf. We're going to say Wolf, and now we're going to say has line of sight to object. And that object is going to be the player's base. So if the Wolf can see the player base, then what we want to do is set this whole thing in motion. So if he can see the player base, we're going to immediately set the state to jump. So we're going to say Wolf, and we're going to set value of state to jump. Now, we need to do more up here in this block, because at the moment setting the animation to jump isn't enough. So I'll show you. Let's play it now. You can see what we've got so far. You can see he's got line of sight to us. All he's done is set his animation to jump. So we need to add a few more things in here. We need to say, in fact, his line of sight is probably a bit long, because we couldn't see him before he turned into that jump state. So let's change his line of sight to 80, which should put us kind of towards the stairs there. Let's have a look and see if that works. There we go. So as soon as we crossed the stairs, you could see he turned into that jump, which is perfect. Let's change it to 100. Oh. And then we can play around with it later. Go back to the enemy. So once we're in jump state, we're going to set the animation to jump, but we also want to perform an action. We want to say Wolf, and we want to simulate control. We want to simulate control, and we want to simulate jump. Now his jump at the moment is going to be way too high, because his jump strength is set to 650. So let's go ahead and set that to 200. Remember, the player's jump now is 400, so that's going to be half the height of the player. We also want to jump, and we want to give him an X vector. We're going to move him. We're going to kind of bounce him towards the player. So we're going to go Wolf, and we're going to say set X vector, and we're going to say minus 100. Let's see if that makes him leap towards us. There. So you can see he set the X vector. Oh, he's also got default controls on. But you can see he kind of did that leap forward. The reason he continues to move is because the state's basically saying if we're in jump state, set the X vector to minus 100. And because we're not changing the state at any point, it's continually doing that over and over and over again, moving him to the left. But it's getting where we want it to be. What we need to do actually is deactivate the default controls on the Wolf. Otherwise, the player will be able to control him with the arrow keys, which is what we don't want. So now he does a little jump to the left. Let's add an action. Let's do a wait for 0.5 seconds. And then we're going to set his state. So we can copy this and drag it up. We're going to then set his state to run, which will then change the animation. So what I've done now should, and let's test it in a second, make him jump towards us and then stop, but then move into the running animation and basically just run on the spot. Okay. He's kind of doing a weird bouncy thing. And the reason that's happening is because he's got line of sight to us, which is conflicting this. It's basically 0.5 seconds setting him to run, but then immediately he's seeing us again, and then he's setting the state to jump. So let's add a sub event by pushing B on the keyboard, double click, go to system, let's say trigger once while true, and then let's move that state to jump down into trigger 1. So that means as long as he's still got line of sight to us, it's not going to repeat that over and over. Okay, let's see. There he is. He can see us, he jumps, and now he's running on the spot. Perfect. So now we know we're moving in the right direction. So now we need to add in a sub event under run and double click and say system, and we need to say every tick, and then we need to add an action, and we need to go to wolf, and we need to simulate the control again. And we're going to say run left. Now, if you had a scenario where you could jump over the wolf, or he might need to change directions, you could then simply put another sub event underneath. Did we do it with the ghouls? I don't think we did, but you'd effectively add another sub event and say if the wolf is to the right of the player, so his X position is further to the right, then simulate control right or left, sorry, and then if it's the other way, simulate it left. But for now, that should work fine. Yeah, so he runs, but he's running way too fast. Way too fast. In fact, we could probably just drag that up, because when we change it to a state run, we're not changing it again, so it's effectively going to do the same thing. But we need to just reduce his speed. Max speed 3, it's not going to be that. Let's change it to 50. Yeah, we don't need him doing it every tick because we're not changing the state of the wolf after he's seen us. He's going to stay in run, which means it should repeat over and over again every tick. So let's see. Let's get rid of this bat. Jump, and there he goes, running towards us like a good little wolfie. And then stop to the wall. Perfect. So all we need to do now is add in this trigger here, which is a ghoul fader. Let's just check the event. We might be able to reuse it. Ghoul on collision with ghoul fader, call function ghoul exit. Let's see what that function is and remind ourselves. We have it. Oh, we have it up here. Pick by unique ID, disable, yeah, tween it. Okay. We can reuse it, but let's just change the name ghoul fader to enemy fader, and that will automatically just change it in the event sheet, so you don't need to worry about that. Now I can just drag a copy, pop it in there, and we need to add the tween behavior to the wolf because we're going to tween his opacity out. Tween. Go back to enemies. We can close that down. Now we don't need to do another function for this because we only have one wolf in the game. We can just simply pick that wolf. So when we say wolf, it's going to just do that one. If you have multiple wolves, you would just do another function exactly the same as this, and you would just use that perimeter using the unique ID of the wolf. Add event to wolves, and we're going to say wolf and we're going to say on collision with another object, and that's going to be the enemy fader. And then when we hit the enemy fader, we're going to say wolf, and we're going to go to tween. Tween one property, and that property is going to be, let's do the x first. The n value is going to be self.x minus 32, which is the width of the wolf. It's going to take 0.5 seconds, and done. We're also going to deactivate the wolf's behavior, his platform behavior. So we're going to disable that. So we're going to disable it, and then we're just going to take over his movement with the tween, but he's still going to be playing that run animation because he's going to be in the run state. It's just not going to recognize this action here because we're going to disable it. Then we're going to say wolf, and we're going to tween one property again, and this one is going to be the opacity. The n value is 0. It's going to take 0.5 seconds as well. Then we're going to add another action in here, and we're going to say wolf, and we're going to compare the opacity, which is appearance. Compare opacity. And then we're going to say if it is less than or equal to 0, which means that when this action here is finished, then we're going to destroy it. That way it's not going to, it's not going to remain in the game forever. It's going to be destroyed. And that, I think, should be all of our wolf logic except for attacking or hitting us, sorry, and being killed, which we're going to add in next. Goodbye, bat. Goodbye, ghoul. Bye-bye, ghoul. Okay. Jump, run, and fade into the wall, and he's gone. Good. Now, the only problem was there, I don't know if you saw it, when we ran out of view, he did that jump again. So we're going to need to set another variable on the wolf to fix that. So click on the wolf, click on instance variable, add new instance variable. This one's going to be a Boolean, and this one is going to say active. And then we're going to leave it unchecked. And this is basically going to determine whether the wolf's been triggered. Once he's seen us, we're going to trigger it. And once that's been triggered, if he has seen us, then that's going to disable it doing it again and again. So let's say this. Wolf has line of sight to player base. Trigger once. Wolf. Set Boolean. True, active to true. In fact, we can do it up there. And then under here, where we say trigger once, we're going to push C on the keyboard to add a condition. And we're going to say wolf. And we're going to compare now. We're going to ask if that Boolean active has been set. You can invert it with I, but we're not going to do that. No, we are going to do that. So if active is not true, then set it to jump. Otherwise, it's not going to do anything. So as soon as we see us, we're going to set it to true. And then trigger once. If we're not active, set it to jump. In fact, I'm going to drop that down under here, under jump. And I'm going to give it... no, I'm not going to give it away. I think that's fine. So once we... Let me just think. Once we see the player, the wolf sees the player, trigger once, we're going to set it to jump. Then we're going to set active true. But we're only going to do this if active is false. So it should only ever do it once. That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm thinking. I could well be wrong. I've been wrong many times in this series. Okay, see us, run away. Yeah, he can't. There's no way he can see us again. Great, that works for me. That works well. Right, now we need to add in the logic if he hits us and we hit him. And I think the quickest and easiest way we can do this is add into our enemies family. So we're going to edit family, The wolf is the newest member of the enemies. Click OK. Now that by itself should mean we can kill it with everything. So let's go back to enemies, and we're going to go killing enemies. We'll drop that down underneath. Enemies on collision with weapons, enemies destroyed. Yep, perfect. Now the only thing I want to add in to killing enemies here is click on add another event. We're going to say wolf, and we're going to say on collision with another object, and I want to put in those particles, because if it runs into the water particle, sorry, the holy water particles on the floor, then I want it to destroy as well. And I'm going to say spawn I'm going to say wolf. I'm going to say spawn another object, and that's going to be these death particles. These ones here. Layer objects. At image point 0 is fine. And then we're going to destroy the wolf. Perfect. Let's just go ahead and try that out. Okay. Killed it. I do want to test out a couple of different things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drag, not the player. We could even put the player down there. He doesn't need to be on top of this thing. He's going to spawn in on top of it immediately when the game starts anyway. I'm going to pop this player square back here just so I don't have to walk the level every time. Yep, and we get hit if the wolf hits us. We can shoot it with the dagger. Perfect. Let's just reset. There it is. Perfect. And he dies if he runs into the holy water. Let's just quickly fix that bug with the heads-up display there. Let's double-click on it. At the moment, it shows just the two. Let's right-click, duplicate. I'm going to make this one show the holy water, which is basically just a bottle. There. That was frame 2, wasn't it? Right. Go back to the player events. Where do we put this logic? I think it's to do with weapon state. Yeah. So under the HUD group, every tick, we're going to copy and paste out that bottom one. If the weapon is equal to water, I think that's what we called it. Set animation frame to 2. Yeah, we did. Let's just check it. Axe. Perfect. Changes to all the things we need at the top. And there we go. Right, I'm going to leave it there. We've added in the wolf. We've got all the enemies in the game we want. The only thing we need to do now is create a boss fight. So in the next episode, we are going to do just that. We're going to create an event that allows us to transition to the boss level. Once we've gone through here, then we're going to create the boss room, and we're going to program the boss, and I'm going to show you how all that works. So I think maybe 2 or 3 more episodes should complete the series if you've made it this far so far. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around. If you've enjoyed the content, please leave a like on the video. It does help the channel reach more people. And if you haven't already and you are enjoying the content, feel free to subscribe. It's free and you can unsubscribe anytime you like.